Hi everybody, welcome to episode 7 of Pyramid Knits. My name is Liz, and I am a knitter and natural dyer coming to you from my home outside of Taos, New Mexico in the southwestern United States. You can find me on Ravelry as Bombardoo, I'll type it out down here, and on Instagram as Pyramid Dyeworks. My dogs are outside right now. Normally there would be dogs on this bed. If they ask to come in later, there might be dogs on this bed, if you're lucky. So yeah, it is Sunday afternoon. I am pouring myself a cup of tea. I'm not a big tea drinker. I'm really a coffee drinker. But every once in a while, it's nice to have a cup of tea. And I went to a little shop in town, I don't know, last week or the week before, and picked up some tea, which I left in the kitchen. I went to a little shop in town and picked up some nice tea in hopes that I would find a tea that I really like, that I actually crave having. I usually only drink tea when I'm sick or something and coffee doesn't sound good. So I went and I picked up this tea at the little shop in town, Wabi Sabi. It's a bourbon vanilla tea. I have not tried it yet, so I don't know if I like it. It sounded like something I would like. It sounds nice and earthy and dark and kind of sweet. So we'll give it a try. So that's pretty nice. I might add a little bit of sugar or honey though. Okay, so I've doctored up my tea a little bit. I put some sugar in it. And it's a nice little sweet treat for late Sunday morning. I'm drinking it out of my Taos Woolfest mug. I don't know if you can see it. Woolfest 36, you can kind of see it. They made these last year for the 36th year of Woolfest. Local potter made these. It's the nice thing about living in Taos is like every extracurricular event I have has some sort of handmade pottery that comes with it. So Taos Woolfest, I'm pretty sure it's the same potter who did these mugs last year, and I also helped coordinate a 10K trail run in the summertime, and we have potted finishers medals made every year. In fact, I'll just go and grab one. Yeah, so here are the finishers medals that we give out at our trail run. There's a couple different years with the different glazes. But yeah, I'm pretty sure it's the same potter that did these because they look quite similar. Yeah, so I seem to be just recording these like once a month. And I think that's probably good for me right now. Come summertime, like as I'm doing more dye stuff, maybe I'll have more things to share and I'll record more often. I was going to do it last weekend, but I just wasn't ready for it. I wasn't in the mental space for it, and I didn't have enough progress on a lot of my projects, honestly. I was like, I could really use another week to make this look like I've done a little bit more work. And also, I just did not have the mental space for it. In the last month, I've had a very, very close friend of mine suddenly pass away from complications to the flu, and that came as a really big shock to kind of this whole town. She had lived here for a very, very long time, 20-something years, and, knew everybody somehow. So it's been kind of a strange time processing that and being with mutual friends, and it's been good to have a community of people who are all grieving at the same time. But yeah, I'm still in the process of processing it. And I'll talk about it a little bit later. I have a project that reminds me of her and is helping me kind of get through it, I guess. Also, my dad went off and had a heart attack like a week after that happened. He is fine. He is totally fine, which is great. He happened to be out of town and near like the best heart hospital in the world when that happened. So he got excellent care and, you know, in and out. They fixed him up. He was out of the hospital the next day. Like, yeah, so he's doing fine. He's back to his old self. But that was pretty scary too. So there's just been a lot of big stuff processing the last few weeks. And fiber arts certainly helps with that. Other life things. I adopted that new dog, right? I think I talked about that last time. So it turns out he has severe separation anxiety. Yay! So I'm dealing with that. He destroys things or escapes from his crate whenever I leave the house. Or if he can't escape from his crate, he destroys his face trying to get out of the crate. So we're working on that. Thankfully, I work from home. Yeah, so we're up to, I can be in the other room while he's in his crate for 30 minutes. And he doesn't cry. We're up to that now. Whenever I started, it was 3 minutes. So we're doing good. So first thing I'm going to talk about, after what? This has been a half an hour of me like randomly rambling on so many different topics. First thing I'm going to talk about, I am joining the Stashless 2020 challenge over with the Crimson Stitchery. And it is sort of make your own rules kind of a thing of however you want to define as going stashless for 2020. You know, if you just want to use up more than you bring in, if you want to get through everything you have, if you want to like cold sheep and not buy anything the whole year, you can kind of define your own goals around that theme. So my goal is to knit through everything that I have bought and have picked a pattern for. So my deal is I don't generally stash yarn. I don't buy yarn without a project in mind. So I will pick out a project and I'll go out and I'll buy the yarn for it. So as a result, I have a lot of scrap stash, which I'm making a granny stripe blanket now. I'll get to that in a minute to take care of that kind of stash. But I don't have a lot of yarn lying around. There's a few random skeins here and there from, you know, projects that didn't work out, or I, you know, bought an extra of something. You know, I've got a few things, but it's not a ton and it doesn't really stress me out. So what I do is I pick a project and I go out and I buy the yarn. But I don't knit as fast as I pick projects and buy yarn. So I do stash things. I do stash things. Whether or not they have a project picked out for them does not matter. I have stashed things. I gotta go let the dogs in. Hang on. All right, it just started raining and I heard the dogs at the door, so I let them in. So probably pretty soon, in like the next 60 seconds, I would guess, there's gonna be a dog right there. Nice little background dog. What was I talking about? Stash list, yes. So I buy yarn for projects. And generally that hasn't been too much of an issue. You know, I might have like the next sweater quantity already bought. Sorry, everything's shaking because the dog's running into the table. My apologies. You know, I might buy like the next sweater out. But since I've been working in my local yarn shop and I have a lot of, you know, slow afternoons sitting around a bunch of yarn that I get a discount on, that has become larger. And since I went to Vogue Knitting Live last month and I bought 2 more sweater quantities of yarn, suddenly I'm like, oh my god, I have like 5 or 6 sweater quantities of yarn like waiting in the queue. That's a stash. So my goal for Stashless 2020 is to get through everything that I already bought yarn for that is still a work in progress that I haven't finished, get through all of that this year so that I can start fresh next year. That does insinuate that I'm not going to add. There he is. There's the Kesa dog. He's just going to chill back there. He has separation anxiety, like I said, so he doesn't like me to be outside of his vision. So he's going to be very happy just sitting right there. So yeah, Stash List 2020, I'm going to try and work through all of the yarn that I have already bought for projects that are already earmarked. And so to do that, I have gone and I have made myself a little schedule. It's my 2020 year of knitting. And it's got a lot of scribbles and crossouts on it already. But it makes sense to me. So I've marked all of the months here. I've written out all of my current whips up here and kind of guesstimated when I'm going to finish them or when I want or need to finish them. And then the next projects that's going to come in line and kind of when I'm going to finish that. And this would get me everything done by December. If I can stick to the schedule, I'll get through it all. It's a lot. It's 8 sweaters. That's a lot. That's a lot of sweaters. To be fair, one of them's almost done. There's 2 that are already in progress that are like half done. And there's another one that's already cast on that I have like a sleeve. I do have, accessory projects I want to make. I definitely want to make a pair of mittens this year. I want to work on my Fair Isle this year. So I definitely want to do like, just kind of a Fair Isle sampler cowl just to practice my tension. And just do like a circular cowl, like knit it in the round so it'll be doubled up and then knit it all the way and then graft it at the end. And just pick different Fair Isle patterns just to practice. And, it's a functional sort of learning project. I have knit plenty of Fair Isle in the past. I don't do it consistently. So I feel like my skills really aren't improving. And I felt like the last time I kind of went back to a Fair Isle project that I was really, really frustrated with my tension. So I want to have a project that I can kind of work on in the background all year, which this will be great for, that I can just practice on my tension and practice on my technique. And it doesn't really matter, it's not a sweater that I'm putting all of this work into. I'm not trying to make it look like a sample or anything. It's just going to be freeform practice project. And I think that'll be fun. I'd like to crochet some coasters to take my crochet skills to the next level. So I definitely have like some house projects that I want to do, but I'm not putting any sort of deadlines on those. The only thing I'm putting deadlines on is all of my sweaters. All right, so moving on, I think, what I'm wearing. This is going to be a long podcast because I don't know what I'm doing. Yeah, so this is Blank Canvas by Ysolda Teague. It is knit out of Knit Picks City Tweed DK in the colorway Cobalt. I knit this almost 5 years ago now. I knit it in 2015. And it is a really great wardrobe staple kind of a pattern. So yeah, this yarn has held up, I don't know. I don't want to say great. I'll say okay. I just depilled it. It was pilling a lot, and I did not get all of the pills off of it. To be fair, I had never depilled this sweater before, so it had been accumulating pills for like 5 years. But yeah, it's super soft. Like I can wear it next to my skin and it doesn't bother me. Anyway, I've knit this pattern twice. I really like it. It's super basic and it's like open for all sorts of modifications. The other one I did a striped version, and it's a little bit more fitted. So I knit this sweater in 2015 after I was diagnosed with cervical cancer. And I was very lucky that I was caught early enough that I didn't have to do any sort of radiation or chemotherapy or anything, but I did have pretty major surgery. So I was stuck on the couch for like 6 weeks. About 6 weeks. And I knit this sweater during that time. Knitting is one of those things, your memories go into the piece that you're making. So whenever I wear this, that's what I think about. I think about the time when I was stuck on the couch and I couldn't really even walk to the bathroom without getting somebody to help me get up and down off the couch. So we're just gonna keep going with the downer theme here. And speaking of putting memories into your knitwear, I showed you last time I had started a granny stripe blanket, and I had never crocheted before. This was a new skill. This still is a new skill. I've only had it for a month. So whenever I showed it to you last, I was just a couple rows into it. And I have made quite a bit of progress on it now. I'll go ahead and show you. I have it. It's queen size, so I've got it all folded up here. And I'm trying to hide some of my ends. Yeah, so it's getting quite a bit bigger. I'm trying to do kind of a general rainbow-ish gradient. So I started with a green, and I'm doing a Roy G. Biv, so I'm like green, blue, indigo violet. And then I'm going to my neutrals. I go to white, get a little neutral stripe in there, and then head into the oranges, the yellows, and now I'm back into the greens. So, kind of a vague-ish rainbow theme, and I'm just going to keep following that to pick my next color. I'm really enjoying it. It's great fun. I'm using up all of my scraps, which feels so good. Like, so many of these, I used up all of the yarn that I had left of it, And it's like I finish up the ball, and it's just like, oh, finally, it's gone. It's like a little weight lifts off of me every time I finish another ball of yarn. So, yeah, so the thing with this, I taught myself to crochet, right? I showed this to you guys last month, and I was super excited that I had learned to crochet. And my friend who passed away unexpectedly last month also crocheted. She was my roommate while I was getting divorced. Oh my God, this is such a downer of an episode. I am so sorry. I'm happy. I love my life. Things are wonderful. Like, let's keep it upbeat, right? Okay, so, yeah, she was my roommate whenever I was getting divorced. I lived with her while everything was getting sorted. And I knit. So I would knit around the house all the time, and she crocheted. She knew how to crochet. She hadn't in many, many years, and she got re-inspired to do it while I was living there. So, I gave her some yarn, and I gave her one of my crochet hooks that I had, and she got really into it, and she started making hats for all of our friends, and she would tell me stories about how her mother, she was from Papua New Guinea, so she had a very different experience growing up, a very different culture growing up. But she would tell me about how her mom would make these little like baby bags for all of the babies who were born in their village. Every time there was a new baby born, she would crochet a little baby bag and like a little thing for the mom. So her mother was always making these, always. My friend was the daughter of the chief of the village. So like they, her parents had a very parental sort of role among, their village there. And, her mom was like a midwife and helped all of these women give birth. And then she would crochet them these things and give them to them. So my friend picked up crochet again, and she was feeling really connected back to her mother. And, oh God, it just keeps getting to be a downer. So her mother had passed away about a year before my mother passed away, which happened while I was living with her and I was also getting divorced. So we would talk a lot about, being connected to our mothers and remembering them and remembering our people and where we came from, and all of that stuff got tied up into all of the fiber and living there and the time of life that I was going through and the time of life that she helped me through. And I might start crying. So anyway, so she was starting to crochet again, and I was knitting, and then I learned to crochet to make this blanket. And those first few days, which was the first few days that I was recording this podcast the last time, I kept thinking every time I would pick it up, I would just think about her the whole time, and I was like, oh my gosh, I can't wait until I talk to her next, and I can tell her that I learned to crochet. Like, she'll be so excited, and she's gonna make me make a bunch of hats. Like, I know it. But then I never talked to her again, so I never got to tell her about the blanket. So, oh God. So yeah. Now that I have this blanket going, I'm dedicating it to my friend, and every time I work on it, I'm still going to think of her. So she's going to get lots and lots of love to wherever she is, which is probably right behind me right now. I wouldn't doubt it. While I'm working on this, and it's going to take a long time. It's a queen size blanket, so she's going to be getting my thoughts for quite a while. And yeah, speaking of the fact it's a queen size blanket and I'm trying to hide my gazillions of ends that are all hanging out of this thing. They're everywhere. A queen size bed is 80 inches long. So my theory is if I stop every 8 inches, which I'm just about there, maybe another row or something, I'm going to stop and weave my ends so that I don't have an entire blanket's worth at the end. So I'll have 10 end weaving sessions, and then it'll be done. Whenever you break it down that way, it doesn't sound quite so bad. Yeah, so that's granny stripe, that's crochet. I do want to expand my crochet skills, so yeah, maybe I'll do some little houseware things in crochet this summer. That'd be fun. And moving on to my next work in progress. Oh, which is also good. It's my therapy knitting. So my therapy knitting right now is the Litmus Cowl. It's patterned by Amy Florence of the Stranded podcast. This is totally my therapy knitting. It's all stockinette. I talked about this in the last episode as well. I am now officially 50% done with this. So I have gone through 2 full repeats of the gradient. That's a full repeat of the gradient there. There's a full repeat of the gradient there. So I'm going to do all of this over one more time. And then I'll graft it together. And it's going to be like the coziest cowl. I'm so excited about it. But as one right now, like grafted, it's going to sit like this. If I just did it one time. So yeah, 2 times around, it's going to fit twice around my neck and just be this big snuggly thing. It's going to be so great. And all of the yarn I'm using is a wool silk blend. This white is Fiberco Acadia and in the colorway Egret. And the gradient set is from 100th Sheep. Oops, I just lost a stitch marker. It's from 100th Sheep in Colorado because I just lost a stitch. Whoops. 100th Sheep up in Colorado, and they dyed up these cool little color concepts mini sets. And I got this one at Taos Wool Fest last year. And it is knitting up really nice. I'm knitting it on size 4 needles. Yeah, I love it. It's going along. It's great therapy knitting because it's just stockinette in the round. Anytime I need to chill out or relax my brain, I pick that up and I can immediately just like feel whatever anxiety I have just just kind of shift. It's like a downshift, you know. Next up on Works in Progress is my Widow's Kiss sweater. And I am almost done. I'm so close to being done. I was really hoping I was going to be done today. That's not going to happen. I think I'll probably be done on like Tuesday or something. Here it is. Here, I'm going to stand up and move my chair again so I can show it to you better. There we go. There's my Widow's Kiss. You can see it's going to fit me real nice. I'm just almost there. Sleeves are attached. I'm doing the yoke decreases. I just got to keep going. I am done now with all of my cables. This was my last cable cross down along here. So now it's just going to be 2x2 rib all the way all the way up to the top of the neckline. From there up, I'm on this particular section of the raglan decreases is like 20 repeats of the decrease with an even row in between, right? So I keep looking at it, I'm like, it's 40 more rows. Oh my God, it's 40 more rows. And it sounds so daunting, but it keeps getting smaller. And now I'm done with the cables. Like, this is just going to fly the rest of it. So maybe I could even get it done tomorrow. Tuesday for sure. This is getting bound off by Tuesday. And today's Sunday. So yeah, it's just almost there. It needs a few more sessions working on it and it will be finished. And I have one more whip, which is somewhere. Here it is. I had a nice organized pile, but it lost its organization at some point. Okay, I showed you this last time. I have a pair of vanilla socks that I had cast on the wrong size needle. My second sock I cast on the wrong size needle. So I've torn it out and I recast on the correct size needle and I'm well on my way. So yeah, I'm almost to the heel. I've gotten a few good knitting sessions on this week whenever I've been out and about and chatting with people and just, knitting around on my sock. So those should be done, sometime soon. Okay, so we've gotten through whips. Barely. We barely survived that one. Yikes. So now I'm going to move on to my in the queue bag. And this is my not a stash that I want to knit through this year. So I thought I'd just kind of go through it to hold myself accountable to what I want to do. So this is my in the queue bag, which is a really big, oversized felt tote that is stuffed full of yarn. So I have to knit through everything in this bag this year is basically my goal. Because that's basically my stash. So first up on that list, I'm going to do the Stonecrop pullover. I'm really excited. This was one of those impulse yarn shop purchases. So I'm going to knit it out of these. I'm going to have a neutral body for the sweater, neutral color, with this cool gradient, like orangey, purpley thing. This is a really nice, super affordable commercial yarn that does the barber pole gradient, which is like what Spin Cycle does. So this is a really great substitute for all of those patterns that recommend Spin Cycle. It is Queensland Collection Perth. It's super wash. It's super wash. It feels super soft, but whenever I've knitted with it before, it's really quite toothy. So it doesn't really act like a super wash. It sticks to itself really well. So I think it'll be a good option for color work. And I am pairing it also with Queensland Collection United, which is also machine washable. It is a cotton wool blend. And I have also knit with this yarn before on a project, and yeah, it feels like cotton. I really did not enjoy working with this yarn in the past, honestly, because it feels like working with cotton. It's very stiff. It's just not. It's not a ton of fun. But it's gonna make kind of a lighter weight, machine washable pullover. And I'm also thinking about making it a short sleeve version, because I'm a little bit iffy on if I have enough of this yarn. I mean, clearly I can get some more from the shop, but I don't really want to buy any more. So I'm just going to go with what I have. And I've seen a couple Stonecrops with short sleeves and one that was like a half sleeve, which I really, really liked. So I think I might actually make it half sleeve because since I'm doing superwash in a cotton wool blend, it is going to be a little bit cooler. So I think that might really make that pattern fit this yarn really well, and it would be more of like kind of a spring or fall piece. Especially with these colors, it'll be nice and fall-like. Next up, I showed this one to you guys last time as well because I bought this at Vogue Knitting Live. And I got a sweater quantity, I'll just show it to you again really quickly, of this Asylum Fibers. It's 100% superwash merino in the colorway Earl Grey. It's their merino fingering. And it is this great tonal yarn. I'm going to use this to knit the Flora sweater by Melody Hoffman. And I'm really excited about this one too. I really want to knit more basic wardrobe staples like this, where it's just a, one color pullover. It's not super patterned or anything, where it has just nice details. So I think the Flora is going to be great. Like I'll be able to wear it with leggings, with a skirt, with jeans, with whatever. And it's a really nice neutral sort of color that's going to match everything. I showed you guys this one last time too. I also got this at Vogue Knitting Live, and it is, pull the tag out, Green Mountain Spinnery, Lana, in the colorway Olivera, and there's my hair on it. Nice. It's this nice olive green. It looks to be a woolen spun yarn as well, 2-ply woolen spun, so it's got nice plumpness to it. It feels nice and light. And I am going to make the Poet sweater out of this. It's fingering weight. Poet sweater by, oh, I forget the name. It was in episode issue 6 of Lane magazine. Lina, Lane, however you say it. So the other thing I have in my not stash bag is a big bag inside of a bag of sock yarn. So I'm not making like super commitments to get through all of the sock yarn, but I kind of want to. I kind of just want to get through everything that's in the bag. So this I got at Taos Wool Fest last year. It is from Yarnies of Texas, out of Abilene, I believe. Yes, Abilene. And it is colorway Paca, fiber content, 70% merino, 20% yak, 10% nylon. So I'm super excited about this. I've never worked with yak before, but there you can see the color in there. It's just got this gentle streaking of kind of purples and greens and blues and yellows. Like it's got everything in there. There, you can see it right there. It's got all of these colors just like gently in there. But it's got this really nice natural gray yak as well. I mean, the gray is dyed on it, but the yak pushes everything to the darker end of the spectrum anyhow. And it's super soft. So I'm going to make myself a sock head out of this. That's my plan for this yarn. Yeah, so that's going to come up soonish, that I'll cast this on and just have a little hat going for myself. This one I already caked up because apparently I thought I was going to use it soon. So this will be the next pair of socks after the socks that I am making right now. I also got this at Taos Wool Fest last year, and I don't remember what it is, so I'm going to have to pull the tag out. Let's see. It is Woolly Lizard from Cortez, Colorado. Woolly Lizard hand-dyed fibers. And this is a 80-20 superwash merino nylon. They don't have a colorway beyond just a number, 2401. But it's just such a fun color. Like, I thought these would make great socks. Just a really fun, crazy color. I love picking fun, crazy colored yarn for socks because nobody ever sees them. And they're fun to knit with. So I don't really care what color my socks are. As long as it's an enjoyable color to look at while I'm making them, I really don't care beyond that. So these will be the next up socks. Then I have some more sock yarn. And this is where things start to get dangerous. This is my own hand-dyed. I did with Coach Neil. And it's gorgeous. It's just lovely. And I love the way the tonality came out in it. But I only did one that looked like this. And I don't really know how to recreate it. And I thought, well, I don't want to bother. I could package it as like a one-of-a-kind and take it into the shop. Or I could just keep it for myself and make some socks. So I decided to I just threw it in the Q bag. And suddenly it became my socks. So yeah, as I continue to dye things and I make mistakes, some more yarn might go into that bag. So yeah, these are just, socks that I'll get to, hopefully this year. Because the sock yarn train just continues. And I have this. I have this for sock yarn. I bought this. I didn't even think about this. I bought this yarn whenever I went to go and visit my friend who just passed away. I went to go and visit her out in California. She had moved out to California like a year and a half ago. And I had gone out to visit her in the fall. And in Half Moon Bay, California. That's where she was living. It was just a magical place. And I went to the yarn shop there and found this smooshy sock set. And the colorway is Cloud to Ground and Gold Experience packaged together for this little sock set. So, I'm going to think about her whenever I knit these socks too. Hadn't thought about that. But that's good. That's good. Yeah, so my plan for these, I was thinking about it. I watched a tutorial the other day on YouTube about doing afterthought heels. And I have done an afterthought heel once, I think. Twice, maybe. And I didn't like it either time. It just didn't fit well. But I watched this tutorial and I was like, that makes a lot more sense. And I want to try it again. So I'm going to try it with a set. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to knit myself a tube. I'm going to pretend like I have a sock machine and just knit myself a huge long tube of the main color. And then I'm going to cut into it and I'm going to add all my stuff at the end. Just to see if that's a way that I want to work. And I feel like, usually I do short row heels because I'm not changing color in my socks. I just knit all my socks out of the same thing. But with this, if I'm going to do contrasting toes and heels and cuffs, I feel like that's a good opportunity to try out doing an afterthought heel again. So that's the plan for these. And there's yet more sock yarn coming. This is the last of it though. So yeah, that's a lot of socks to knit this year too. This is another impulsive yarn shop purchase. I got 2 balls of this Shopel. It's a sport weight sock yarn. Farba 2329. So that's the colorway is 2329 if you're interested in that. But it's a sport weight sock yarn. These balls are all like kind of coming apart now. Sport weight sock yarn. I like the colorway. I think it's a really pretty combination. And I've just never knit socks that weren't fingering weight. So I kind of wanted to start knitting some thicker socks that I can wear more with boots and things. So that's why I got these, is because I wanted to try some sport weight socks. And that is everything I want to try and get through in 2020. Plus, who knows what else I'm going to cast on, what other, yarn shop projects I'm going to end up with. There's also several work in progress sweaters. I am also going to knit a sweater for a friend of mine. those are all all also in the works for this year. So I have a lot of knitting to get through. And I want to improve my crochet skills. And I'm just going to throw it out to the universe. I want to learn to spin. So if a spinning wheel comes my way, I won't say no. Yeah, so lots of fiber adventures for this year. And I still haven't even gotten to dyeing yet. Oh my gosh. Yeah, so on to natural dyeing. I only have one thing to show from the last month. I mean, granted, it was a rough month. There was a couple weeks there where I really did not get very much accomplished. Getting any sort of dye work done during the winter is a challenge because my dye studio is my back porch. So I can do stuff in my kitchen, some stuff in my kitchen, and I have a lot of my dye stuff for this winter I've done in my kitchen. If I'm doing a small batch, if I'm only doing like 2 or 3 skeins, I don't mind doing the pot inside. But anything bigger than that, I'm using really big pots, and I just don't want to waste all the energy going into that pot inside. Whenever I have like the big outdoor burners outside, I'd rather do bigger batches outside. So I've really only done like some small, test dye stuff inside this winter. And there's a lot of stuff that I don't want to do inside because of the fumes that I want to do outside with plenty of ventilation. So like mordanting, which most natural dyes, many natural dyes, require a mordant for the color to actually stick onto the yarn, which I use an alum mordant for pretty much everything across the board. There's a lot of other things you can use. You can use iron, chrome, tin, lots of metals. Alum is an aluminum sort of byproduct or whatever. It's sort of like the least toxic of the bunch. And you can reuse the water whenever you do dump it. Once you've sort of exhausted your mordant bath and you do dump the water, I can just dump it on my plants that are acid loving because I live in the desert, so my soil is quite alkaline. So it's actually sort of a benefit whenever I dump my water periodically. I can use it on particular plants that are going to appreciate that sort of change in the soil composition. So like it's not a terrible thing. But generally that's the mordant that I use. But I don't want to do it inside because you can smell it. You can smell the fumes and it's like, I should not be breathing that. Like, no. So I have to do that outside. So, whenever it's like 25 degrees and there's a foot of snow on the ground, you don't exactly want to be outside working on that. Plus, my rainwater catchment system was frozen solid. I've got a big 275-gallon cube, water storage cube, out there catching water for all of my dye stuff, and it has been frozen solid for months. And I'm very fortunate. I'm on a well for my regular water, and there's not a lot of mineral content in my water. So I can use my tap water, or from my garden hose or whatever for my dye stuff, and it's not going to affect my color, which is very, very fortunate. So I've been able to do that for the small amount of dyeing that I've been doing this winter. But I don't generally like to make a habit of it. I'd rather use the stored water for my dye stuff. So anyway, that's a lot of rambling to say that I haven't gotten a lot of dyeing done this winter because weather. But I did this. This is one I did inside a couple weeks ago. This is dyed with rosemary. And this is just straight rosemary. It's alum mordanted, dyed with rosemary. I am going to do a afterbath with this, which I have not done yet, in iron, which will push this color a lot greener and deeper, and it won't be quite this bright. I can actually show you quite specifically because I am working on this granny stripe. The stripe that I'm on right now is old rosemary dyed wool that I have. So yeah, where can I show you here? here we go. So you can see this stripe here, this lighter one, and this is a wool silk blend that this is dyed on, so it's quite shiny, so I hope you can see. But this lighter color down here, this is straight rosemary. And then the one right above it, I dyed these both in the same bath, and then this top one I put into iron afterwards. So you can see it just pushes it a little bit more green, a little bit deeper. And here's the iron, so you can kind of see next to each other how it's going to shift whenever I put, except for all the shine, sorry. Whenever I put this skein into the into the iron, it's just going to go a little bit darker, a little bit greener. So yeah, I've been playing around with rosemary dyes, and yeah, that's kind of it. That's all I have to show for dyeing this week. Yeah, so I think that gets through all of the fiery goodness and all of the life goodness and horribleness and just general lifeness of it, and goals and plans. So I will probably come back to visit you guys again at the end of March. If I don't have my widow's kiss done, there is something very, very wrong. That should be done in the next few days. But hopefully I'll have a lot more progress on things and some new projects to show and more dyeing to show now that it's starting to warm up a little bit. And my rainwater catchment is starting to thaw. And there are more and more afternoons where it's, sunny and the upper 40s or the low 50s, where it feels really nice to be outside on the porch and working with fiber and plants. So thank you so much for joining me. If you've made it this far, I really appreciate it. I hope I wasn't too much of a downer today, but I believe in, being honest and telling your story, because everybody has a story. And I think it's important for us to talk about those things so that other people don't get lost in it. It's good to know there's other people out in the ocean of grief with you, and you're not alone out there, and just gotta give it time. I've been going through a lot of grief for a lot of years now, it feels like, so I kind of feel like I'm an old pro at it, which is unfortunate. But yeah, I think the most important thing for me was to be able to talk to other people about it and hear other people's stories and know that everything I'm experiencing is just a part of life. And, as negative as it sounds, it's really nice to know that I'm not special. I'm not being singled out for some horrible string of events because of whatever. And it's just such is life, So yeah. Thank you again for joining me. Happy crafting and happy knitting and crocheting and dyeing and whatever else you're doing out there. I hope you're having a lovely day wherever you are, and know that you're all loved, and I will see you next month. Bye.